All right, everyone. This is Sandcast Beach Volleyball with Bourne, Travis Mewhirter, and our newest addition to the fam. We got Savvy Simo joining us today. How we doing, Sav?
We're doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited, you guys.
Thanks for coming back on. We've had you on the show as a guest, and I know that you're big into kind of interviewing people and sort of getting into that space, and you were awesome to have on the show. So we figured you'd be a good addition. We've been looking for another teammate for a while.
I'm honored to be that person. Thank you.
And we're very picky, so, you know.
It's exclusive club over here.
It is, exactly. We needed the feminine touch as well.
We did. I know Gabby's going to be stoked.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Love it.
But yeah, so this episode is kind of a fun one. Like we were just talking about, this is the Sandcast 3-year anniversary. So this is helpful for you to remember that your wedding anniversary is right before. I know it goes in that order. You're like, oh, Sandcast 3 years. I'm getting married too.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so 3 years. I don't know about you, Tri, but did you expect it to be going this long? I had
no.
I got
Not at all. It was kind of like, let's see what we can do. See if we can pull something off.
Yeah, now we're on 153 straight weeks. Haven't missed a Wednesday.
Oh my
God. Yeah. that does blow my mind, especially like thinking about myself and people hearing me talk for like an hour every week. I'm like, I thought people would want to do that.
Dude, it's really cool because we were just talking about, like, I spent the last 3 weeks kind of on a little like southern road trip in Nashville. Went to check out Johnny Hyden's place, which was pretty cool. And then drove the 14 hours from Nashville down to St. Petersburg, Florida. Played in Fort Walton, this tournament called FUDS, and then played a big AVP next down in Clearwater. And dude, it was really cool because so many people in Florida like loved the show, and like they were all like super appreciative of it. And it's like, it's fun to get out of California, and just to see like other fans and people who are listening to it. They're like, oh, I love it. Like, keep it up. I was like, all right, we'll see if we can get another 3 in us.
That is cool. I feel like I get way more stoked when people come to me about the Sandcast rather than volleyball.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, do something else.
Something different than just volleyball. I get you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So to celebrate our 3-year Annie, we're bringing.
You got a drink there, Trav.
Cheers, dude. I got a little glass of red. Dude, this is our old school.
I got my Corona over here.
There we go.
Oh, perfect.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
It's funny that we all coordinated without saying anything.
I like just walked to Vaughn's. I was like, our like first couple episodes, we always did like some red wine with it. So I was like, got to bring it back to the old red wine day. So picked up a $4 bottle of Yellowtail.
Hey, Yellowtail.
Keeping it classy as always.
I remember that stuff. I'm just constantly stocked with Kona, as you know.
Yeah.
And not because Kona's sending me beers out here, because my dad is that obsessed with me. He's got the Gold Cliff IPA in the fridge at all times.
Uncle
I'm like,
Pete.
Sponsored. Stop buying it. Oh, I don't care. I gotta have it.
Yeah. So to celebrate the 3-year Annie, we brought in Sav as a new member of the podcast fam. So I know you're super busy at UCLA, but we'll get you in when we can. And then so Savvy's going to be kind of reading the fan questions and moderating for us today, facilitating and adding in kind of whatever discussion you want to add. Like I said, we just kind of wing it pretty much every week for the last 150 couple. So planning on doing no different today.
I asked Travis, I was like, hey, it's my first episode. I left him a voicemail. I'm like, yeah, what am I supposed to be doing? Can you, what do you want from me? And he called me. He's like, yeah, we're just gonna wing it. I was like, all right. Like, it's my first time. I want to do well, but I mean, this is how I normally do it too, so it works out better for me. So.
Yeah,
so
I think you'll do just fine.
It's always better when we wing it.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so Sav, you can feel free to hit us with fan questions then.
All right. Well, I was just looking through, and you were just talking about your tournaments, obviously, Travis. So a question from Bombs Away. I'll start with this one. It said, heard from a reliable source that the AVP is making a big push to expand the number of AVP Next events available. So while there's a massive boost of beach players playing around the country, what do you think about the rationale in doing this over and adding 1, 2, or 3 Florida stops? because obviously they're open and stuff. So what do you think about that?
I don't know if that's like, I'm never big on confirming rumors, so I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. But dude, the AVP Next, like they have like an AVP Next Gold series, which like they're freaking awesome. So I like looked through the spreadsheet last year, and I think I played in 4 of them, and me and Rafi won one of them, and I made more money in the 4 AVP Next Golds that I played in than the 3 main draws that I made. So like they're awesome for like sort of the lower main draw, upper quality level players, and we always compare it. It's like the AVP's version of the NVO because it's really similar in talent. Where so like this weekend, I took a 9th, but the only team I lost to was Piotr, which is like really similar to the NVO where you'd have to beat like a Piotr to make it to the quarters. And then Piotr played like Tim Baumgren in the quarterfinals. So it was like a super stacked tournament. But you don't get the Phil Dahlhausers and stuff. So it's like perfect for like the up and coming talents, like Julia Scholes and Haley Harward, for example, like 5th years at USC, they won on the women's side, where you can make like good money if you're not in college, or enough money to kind of float you around to the next tournament and then get really good competition. So if they keep adding them, like I'm stoked about it because it's like the perfect little tour for me. And I think last year they had 8. So I had like 16 legitimate, like high level tournaments to play in the US between the 8 AVPs and the 8 AVP Next Golds. Like they're awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I can't remember the exact reasoning as in terms of why the AVP pulled out of Florida, like pulled their big event out of Florida in the first place. It might have had something to do with the FIVB having one there for a few years. Do you remember, Travis?
I think weather. I think like the weather is so hard to predict there, and like things just kept getting rained out. Because I remember. I mean, you remember when the AVP used to go to New Orleans, and it was just a mess every year. Like you look at their stops now, and it's like relatively predictable the times of year they go places. And I think like with Florida, you just never know what you're gonna get. But the thing about Florida too is that like it doesn't rain for terribly long unless it's a hurricane. You get like 45 minutes and then it'll clear up, then another 45.
Yeah. Where were you, Travis, this summer when it was like the courts were completely flooded? I remember you posting it on your Instagram or something.
Oh my gosh! Well, I played 5 tournaments this year and 4 of them were like that. I played the one that you're talking about that was Wapaka.
Okay.
Wapaka was like a good couple inches of standing water on the courts, and we were like, all right, like play on. Yeah. That's the way we're doing it.
Oh my gosh. It's just
that's insane. But I feel like in general, the excuse of the weather not being great is not good enough for me in terms of not bringing the tour to Florida. Like, that's first of all, probably the best state to play in terms of beaches. I mean, California and Florida are the best. But the fan base out there, like we can't be neglecting that fan base. Huge. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they haven't gone back or tried to go back in the last few years, or maybe they have. But I do think the AVP Next and having that little gold series, like having a developmental tour is huge.
Yeah. With Florida too, one of the things that like I picked up on is there's like 2 very distinct volleyball cultures in California and Florida. And Florida's like pretty old school where there's like ton of shit talking, like a lot of drinking, and where California is like real buttoned up and professional. You know,
I need to get to Florida,
dude. You would love it. It's nonstop trash talk. It's awesome.
When I came out to college from Hawaii, from playing, growing up with Trevor, all these boys, I went to and played like frat volleyball at USC.
Yeah.
And I was just running my mouth like normal. And this is against like volleyball players.
Yeah.
Everyone just made me feel like a total dick. Like I left it. I'm not like a mean guy, but like, isn't that what you do? Like, what's going on here? I was like, I guess I gotta like be nicer. And like when I went down to the beaches, I was like, why is no one talking shit to me?
Yeah,
like, this
dude,
is weird.
You would love Florida because like it's great and the guy I played with, like one of my best buds who I met when I lived in Florida, JD Hamilton, he's like 5'11", and so he's just like, I gotta get in the guys' heads to like win. And so like third point of the game, he starts running his mouth to Piotr, and he's just like, I just bounced around you. I'm 5'11", bitch.
Nice.
And Piotr was like, oh my gosh. But it was awesome. And then like,
Thrown off.
as soon as the match is over though, you shake hands and like you're cool again, but it's just like the chatter is going and it's great.
Yeah, I love it. What about on the girls' side? Who's got the best chatter on the girls' side?
That's a good question. The girls is a little bit more polite. I think that guys, like, we don't take things as personally. And I don't know, maybe Savvy, you can speak to this, but like me, you, and like Trevor, for example, like we can talk trash in like a KOB. Then like 2 seconds later, like off the court, we're best buds again. But I feel like girls like take things real personal.
Yeah, it's definitely more sensitive, I feel like. And I've been asked that question a lot from like people who don't really play volleyball, people who play more like contact sports. And they're like, so what's like the trash talk? Like, do you guys talk shit through the net? And I was like, not really. Like, I don't really like. I've never had an altercation through the net. Really, I've seen. You guys have probably seen the video of Nick Arnitz now when she. If you've seen that video at NCAA several years ago, a girl on Pepperdine, I don't remember who it was, kicked the ball back under the net and it hit Therese Cannon when she was like on the ground, and Nick went through the net and was like girl. And I watched the video and I was like, oh my gosh, because I've never seen that ever happen.
Yeah.
And she really just like, she didn't, I don't think she said anything, but she was just standing up for her partner. And I thought that was like, I was like, oh my gosh. And she's just standing up for her partner, but I don't think that's a big deal, but you don't see that very much because I think girls are sensitive, and you see it like on a college team, like you have to communicate a certain way to certain players, and that's what I'm learning as I grow up. And like with your partner and stuff, you don't want to say something wrong. Like I never get in altercations with my partner because you'll like implode in a match and there's no way of winning. So it's definitely more mellow. I feel like I think it would be awesome if you're playing against a friend and you're talking trash, but at a high stake game, I feel like you're not gonna be doing that because it'll get too emotional. So I feel like that's why it doesn't happen very much. Too many emotions.
I think girls are more logical about it too. Like my plan is to focus and like play the best I can play. Like, why would I waste my energy talking to someone else? Whereas like some guys will like make up in their head reasons why talking shit will help their game. Like Trevor.
Yeah.
Like he's fully like taught himself that that's how he gets himself to play well, which I mean, realistically, like how can you be more focused on your side of the net if you're talking to the other side? But guys are just a little more crazy like that, and they like it, so they just like make up reasons why it makes sense to do it.
Right.
So I kind of like let it come and go at appropriate times.
Is that a normal thing on the tour that people do on the men's side at least, or not really?
Not that much these days. A little bit more nowadays.
I feel like it's picking up.
It's picking up because Trevor brought it in, and everyone's like, all right, I guess if he's just going to talk, then we'll all talk. For me, it was like, if people came at me and made it personal, then I'd reciprocate.
Yeah.
But I'm more like trying to focus on my side for the most part. But I also think you can use it to your advantage. Like, imagine some of the girls' teams that have never been talked to before, and you just start like getting in their face, like they'll just fully melt down. And for us, we're like, I don't really care about your feelings right now. If I'm gonna win, I'm just trying to win this match, no matter what it takes. Yeah. And sometimes, as sad as it is, it totally works. Like you can just win the match by just getting in their head.
Exactly.
For sure. Delaney like wishes that there was more trash talk on the women's side because she likes throwing a couple that like whenever we play, I hate playing against Delaney because she knows how to get under my skin and she'll just do these like little comments. I'm like, God dang it. She's like, gosh, I wish like girls weren't so sensitive so I could like talk trash more. But then I say something, then I just look like the worst person ever.
I feel like girls too, boys might talk trash in a way that's just like, it's not meant to hurt you, but girls can get like mean about it. And then that's why I think it gets so sensitive because you're not just saying it just to say it. You're saying it in like or at least it could be like a more malicious way. And that's why I feel like it doesn't happen as much. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. It could get bad. And I think there's a lot of respect, not that there's not respect on the men's side, but I just feel like we just have such a high level of respect. Obviously, I'm not at the AVP level yet, but at least in college, like I've never had a problem. Even if I'm playing against someone who I don't particularly like, it's like when you're playing against them, it's just like sometimes they'll hammer ball and I'm like, okay, nice hit. I'll literally say that because it's just, I don't know, but that's just how I work. But if someone, like you said, were to fire me up like that, then it's game
Yeah.
on. That's never really happened. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll
Well,
cross
plus,
the bridge when we get there, I guess.
at the collegiate level, it's not really appropriate either, I feel like. Like, the
Yeah.
refs would get on you, like, officials, people would get involved.
Well, and you're representing
Pro
your
level,
school too. I don't think Steino would be very stoked with me if I was getting. Actually, I don't know. He might think it's kind of funny. I don't know.
I guarantee Stein used to run his mouth back in the day. Sometimes I don't know whether Stein's joking or not.
He was joking with my my teammate Abby today at practice, and she did something, and he's like, "You're done. You're out of practice." And he had his mask on, so you couldn't tell if he was like had his big smile or not. And we're looking at him like, is she actually kicked out of practice? And he starts laughing so hard. It's just classic, typical sign.
Love it.
All right, so I have another question from Greg Chisholm, and he said, seems like the players would love more chances to play, and you've seen firsthand how into beach and sand volleyball places that don't actually have beaches can be, like Cincinnati. Plus, you've seen the indoor sand facilities. So what's your take on playing sand indoor during the winter months?
Were you too young to play in those hot winter nights?
Yeah.
Okay, so you missed those. Have you ever played in like an indoor sand facility at like kind of anywhere, I guess?
Yeah, I've trained a little bit. I want to say Germany and Vienna, just like training sessions. I haven't played a real match.
Yeah.
I mean, I play wherever. The game's really the same, you know. You're going to take out the elements of the wind and whatnot. But that's kind of what beach volleyball is, right? It's like adapting to no wind or deep sand or lots of wind. But I think it translates great. If I had a beach facility in the South Bay, I would use it every once in a while. I would prefer to go on the beach, but I would for sure when it's raining or if I wanted to get really technical reps where I don't want to shag balls, I would for sure utilize it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with training indoors. And a lot of the European teams do it during the winter.
Have you? Well, I mean, you've played the Hague, right? How is that to play in?
So the Hague, I missed it. The 1 year it was indoors, or was it 2 years? I missed both those years. But the 2 years before that, I played it, and it was on the beach, and it was like super windy.
It. I've played in a few indoor facilities. I don't think that it would be. They're not like viable for AVP stops, like big ones, because there's just like the ceiling is really low. So if like you have someone like Phil, like Yahtseeing jump serves, and you have a high pass, like it'll hit the ceiling. You know?
I kind of like it though. Reminds me of the baby court growing up. There used to be wires going across the fence because we would shank so many balls over to the snack shop. So there's these wires that would like stop it from going over.
Anti-snack shack.
For us to go get our milkshakes. But we would play it out of the wire. Like we made that a rule where you play we used to call it like the ball from the heavens, right? Because you like serve it up there and you have to play it off the wires. So it's coming down and it like bounces off the wires. But I kind of like that where you have to play it off the roof or like something like that. It just adds an extra element to the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to have like smaller tournaments like Grand Sands in Ohio. The example that Greg used is an awesome place. It's one of the coolest man-made sites I've seen. There's 7 outdoor courts and 7 indoor courts. And they had a pretty big AVP next with a bid to New York on the line. So they got a pretty big field for that one earlier, I think maybe in March, like right before COVID kind of shut everything down. So you can have like really good tournaments out there, but in terms of can you have like a real big stop? Probably not, or at least not. Yeah, like they used to go to Madison Square Garden, and obviously that has the space to do it. And I mean, your guy Jose won an MSG, I think, right? Him and Adam Johnson.
Yeah, he beat Don Carchi.
Yeah, so there are certain places that can, but like it's so cool to see them pop up. Where like there's places because I just did that story on the best places to play beach in the U.S. Like there's places in South Dakota and Wyoming and like all these like places that have indoor sites that you can play beach volleyball year round at. So it's awesome to see like how big the game is growing. But I mean, can we have big tournaments there? Probably not yet.
Dude, we need to do a Sandcast, like get a Sandcast tour bus
Yes.
We'll drive to all the best beach volleyball locations and just highlight and document the court, and then like me and you will play their best team they got.
That would be awesome.
Let's go to every stop. If you beat us, get like I don't know, some money.
Yeah. So if any RV sponsors are out there, we'll take a trip.
Exactly. And off of that, Charles Olivas asked, when is Tri going to play in a tournament with Travis? So maybe on your little adventure, that might be.
There we go.
Next thing.
Yeah, well, we did play together recently, and it wasn't so pretty.
Did. It wasn't great. Me and you did better than you and Taylor did at first. So by the transitive property, I'm better than Taylor.
It's true. I would say that. Yeah. Well, we'll run it back at some point for sure. I think we should sign up for a real tournament together at some point.
Yeah, we got to get you like one of the bucket listers too. You've been missing out on like the Seaside, Motherlode, Wapaka. We got to get you like one of those little bucket lister fun ones.
Exactly. I know. I'm so weak for not going to any of those.
So whenever you and Trevor are done with this Olympic nonsense,
exactly.
You got my information. I'm ready.
All right.
It's Olympic nonsense. So Stephen A. St. John also asked, he has a really good question. He said, there's a growing trend at the FIVB level of large blockers playing right side as opposed to the traditional power left side. Why do you think this is? How much is it player preference? And then he wrote, personally, I think it allows the smaller player to have an easier time hitting out of system and more swinging options in system. So what do you guys think about that?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. And also a good name, Stephen A. St. John. I think generally, a right-handed hitter's going to be more rangy on the left side, right? So if you have two right-handed hitters, one of them's smaller and going to get all the serves, you let them pick the preferential side. If you're like Phil and Rosie played together, and right off the bat they sent Phil to the right because they're like, Rosie, you're going to get all the serves. You play whatever side is your strength. And I think that's what most teams do, is just let the defender or the smaller guy that's going to get the serves pick which side they're better at. I don't know. Pretty simple.
I think it's more of a trend on the FIVB than here in the U.S. because Avery, for example, is switching to defense, and he's training exclusively right side because there are no big right side blockers here.
Right.
Except, Jake is a right side blocker, and he has been his whole life. But in terms of like the options, like almost every big block that we have in the U.S. is the left side blocker. Like his example was Ryan that he played in the Champions Cup with. So he moved to right side for Ryan. So I think that's more like on the FIVB level. You got like Robbie Mewson, Oleg is a right sider, Anders is a right sider. So I don't know. Maybe some of our big guys should start moving over to the right because the world's caught up with the U.S.
Right. I feel like we don't even have guys that are that comparable to those guys. We have Phil, but he's old. But like, who else do we have comparable to freaking Anders, Mewson, Stoyanovsky?
None at the moment.
Giants like that.
We'll at least have another 4 years to figure it out after the squad.
We don't need size. Ball control.
Exactly.
Well, I was wondering too about this whole thing, left side, right side. If you put the blocker, if someone's getting served a ton, putting the blocker on the left side also opens up the option too. So I feel like that's another thing to think about. But I guess if you're getting served a lot, you want to be on the left side to have more options. But maybe, the option for me is harder to defend because it doesn't happen as much. So putting a big blocker on the left, that could also, I guess it is.
Oh, that's a really good.
I'm with you, Saf, because I think it's more coincidence that Jake Gibb loves playing right side and is just better at it. I think Oleg Stoyanovsky has been a right sider, and Anders has always been a right sider. I think it's just coincidental that the best blockers in the world, the top like 3 or 4 are just right-siders,
Mhm.
where I think the rest of them like utilize that option game that you're talking about, where like
Right.
Phil and Nick are so much more dangerous with Phil on the left because of the threat of the option.
Yeah.
So I'm with you that I think it's probably not so much a trend as it is just like a happenstance that some of the best young blockers like the right side.
Mhm.
If I was on the right side with Hayden, because he had made the conscious decision to become a right sider because he was, indoor Olympian on the left, for that reason, so he could feed options to his blocker. And if I hadn't played left side with Hayden, I mean, that would have taken away half our offense. Like every transition ball, if he had his feet there, was coming at me as an option. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's a good question. And there's a lot of really good questions on here. It's hard to pick which ones to ask, but Joe Meserve asked like a bunch of questions in one. I'll kind of go through it, but he said, you can mix and match players from any generation or country. On paper, who is the best male and best female team and co-ed team? Explain why. And then he asked, who is the best overall male and female player in your opinion?
All right. That's a lot. So
All
right. So we need like a best overall male and best overall female.
Female individual and team. And
Okay.
then the best co-ed team in your opinion.
But like, is this person someone that we think would be able to play co-ed and like switch partners, be versatile, or is it just like the best straight up player?
I think that's up for you to decide. I think you can say the best male and female player, but when it comes to co-ed, I think that's something that you consider.
Could be a different player.
Best co-ed, I'm taking Phil and Misty.
Old school.
Yeah. Taking Phil and Misty on that one.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
I can't come up with a better one than that. I mean, but today, player that's still playing, I'd probably April has played with everyone and been successful.
Yeah.
She's just a hammer all around.
I feel like the blocker has to be a guy, right? Because like co-ed, you play on a men's net. So obviously, like Carrie is the best women's player of all time, but how effective will she be on a men's net against a men's player?
Right.
Good call.
So I think your blocker has to be a guy. I'm taking Phillip. And I think Misty's the best defender of all time.
If we're talking about them in their primes, yeah. What about attacking though, Misty or April? And then April serve as well.
Yeah.
On a men's net.
On a men's
net. True.
April's more physical.
It's true. I think Misty could pull the Nick though and just option Phil every time.
Yeah. I got the strategy and the placement down. But April also, like, you wouldn't necessarily need to use all of Misty's strategery back there because Phil's such a big block. It's more like in the pocket. No.
All right, so you're taking Phil and April?
I'll take April.
I don't hate that. I mean, it's a good team.
You can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
And we're talking worldwide. We're not talking just Americans. It just happens to be
any country, he said. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so what, the best team ever, like combining?
Yeah, anyone, any male or female to make the best pair.
I would love Kent Steffes and Phil together. I would love to see that team. Steffes was a right-sider. Phil's a left-sider. You got the best of both worlds. Steffes won like 60% of the tournaments he played in, which is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's ridiculous. Dang. That's tricky. I almost want to say like St. John and Anders. Because like St. John had like his placement and footwork and everything was so good with Anders' ability to like shift and like take all these crazy angles. I feel like St. John kind of like moved laterally like how Sorum does a little bit, but he like was the master of it.
Yeah, he was cagey.
St. John Smith and Anders Mole.
Okay. Gosh, I would love to see these play out like in a simulator or something. Gotta make this happen. And then what? Now we need a best women's team combined all time.
Yeah.
I feel like you need Carrie. It's kind of a.
Well, it's hard to not just pick Carrie and Misty.
Yeah, true.
What about the Brazilians?
I was gonna say I'd go with maybe like Carrie and Duda.
Duda, yeah.
Duda, really?
Duda's ridiculous, dude.
I don't know how to like. I've only gotten to watch her for the last few years. I don't know how to like compare her to the other Brazilian legends. Savvy,
So
do you watch much FIVB?
Not a ton, no. But I remember I went to a tournament in China, and I think Duda was there, and then Patricia was there. Those girls are just ridiculous. Those Brazilian girls are so fun to watch. So I'd probably put her in mine as well.
Okay. Who would be your team?
I would probably Carrie and Duda too.
Okay.
Carrie and Misty have always been. Oh, that's an easy pick too. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Who else is there? What about Ludwig?
I was thinking about that. It's hard though, because Ludwig. I mean, obviously she's phenomenal, but like if you look at the sustained success that like Carrie and Misty had, and Duda's having, and Agatha, and
like Ludwig, like Misty had a Carrie and Carrie had a Misty. Ludwig never. No offense to Walking Horse, and I mean she was great, and she got injured, and that's why her career got cut short.
Right.
That has a lot to do with it. Like a lot of players wouldn't be who they are if they didn't play with Karch Karai for a few years. You know what I mean? Todd Rogers, no offense, isn't necessarily Todd Rogers without Phil.
Right.
And Phil's maybe not Phil without that gold medal.
Right.
So it's kind of like luck of the partnership as well. Like Anders Sorum isn't who he is right now. World Tour without.
Yeah.
I'm blanking. It's only my first Kona.
Oh my gosh. Is that your little girl in the background?
The baby girl came home.
Okay. So shout out Ryan Doherty, who I guess is making his own podcast. He asked a question. He said, has there ever been any difficulty or tension when you interview someone that you compete with and may have even had a rivalry with on tour?
It's probably more relevant for you, Try. I think.
Say you.
I don't think I have really a rivalry with anyone on tour. Anytime I make a main draw, it's like, oh, it's so adorable.
I don't think of this as an interview, but more of a conversation. You do like real interviews with players.
Yeah.
But in terms of having podcasts with them, there has been a few episodes where I kind of like have to like figure out how I want to approach it and like how deeply I want to dig. Like there's questions I want to ask, but I don't. You know, like I don't know who would be like that. Like I guess Jake. Like guys that I really compete with at a high level, but I don't really hang out with. Those are the guys where I'm like, I don't really know how deep I can go or ask. But most of the guys on tour I'm cool with on a friendly level. Like we have to hang out with each other so much, it's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
But what about for you, like interviewing people to write articles that you playing against? Not that they're.
Well, I don't write like my purpose in beach volleyball with writing. Like I don't write anything bad. Like I've just made like a blanket statement. Like I'm not gonna just like trash a player. Like everything I write is only either to just inform someone that there's a new partnership happening, or to like build someone up to like write a feature on them and like say that they're the greatest player ever, basically. So nothing that I write is ever in a negative light. So no one's like, I can't believe you wrote that about Kame Shock, you know? So like if like Kame, for example, like wouldn't want me to write something about like if he's changing partnerships and he's just like, hey, don't write about that, then I just won't. Which goes against like every journalistic instinct that I would have that I was taught. It's like, oh, when you get breaking news, you break the news. But with these guys, like we're all such good friends that I'm like, all right, well, like I have no reason to do that. It's not like I'm getting paid $1 billion a year to break beach volleyball news. You know?
Right. Sometimes I wish you would though. But I think you balance that line perfectly for like what your niche is and what you're good at. but like I really do think our sport needs like a TMZ kind of person who just breaks all the news. And like I mean, if you're a fan, wouldn't you want to like follow that person?
It was hilarious because during so I've been working with Burek. So Burek's been like rebranding his website from Volley Camp Hermosa to Better at Beach. And so I've been like reworking his content and stuff to rebrand. And he was like, dude, like when the AVP Champions Cup was happening and there was like 45 partnership changes in like 2 weeks, he's like, dude, you should be writing like 100 stories. I was like, I'm not TMZ. He's like, but we need one.
That right when you said the name Burek, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Burek could be that guy. He might be willing to be. Maybe we need a fourth amigo and we get a TMZ guy on board.
Yeah. No, he'd be down because like people read that stuff. Like I'll look at like if I write just like a garbage like, hey, Sarah Hughes is no longer partnered with Summer Ross because Summer's hurt. Sarah just picked up Lauren Fendrick for this tournament. That story will get more reads than like a 2,000 word feature that I like poured my heart and soul into. And I'm like, oh, it hurts. It hurts because people love that stuff. But I just like, I don't get any value in it as a writer. So I try to avoid that stuff, even though people want to hear it.
We got to find that person.
Yeah. Maybe when I'm done playing, I'll just burn every bridge I got.
It's so hard when you're playing. You want to be on good terms with everyone. You don't ever want to cross that bridge. Not that you would, but it's a fine line when you're doing interviewing and reporting, kind of like what Tri said, like when you're interviewing certain people, you don't ever want to go over the line. Like, not that you would, but it could happen. You never know what's going to be touchy or sensitive. And so it just makes it a little bit trickier, especially if you're the one who's also playing and like super involved in the community. You don't ever want to like.
Yeah, because like, and you're in a similar boat too with what you kind of did with NCAA's. I mean, because you're still competing at UCLA, but then you're doing interviewing stuff, and so you just like you want to keep it positive because even though you're playing against them, like you're still friends. It's still your community.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So when I interviewed at the Final Four, I got there and I was just like, I had just lost, I think 2 weekends before that, my senior year, done with indoor forever. And I got there and I was like all dressed up, super excited to be at the interview. And then I see all these girls that I've competed against my whole life. And I was just like, this sucks. Like, I just want to play. I felt like terrible. But then, once you talk to them, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's so awesome you're here. And, there's obviously no hard feelings at all. And maybe that's just who I am. And same with you guys. Like when you're doing an interview, you don't really have, like you said, it's not really an interview. It's more of, I like to think of it as a conversation more than an interview. Just super casual. And so I think that's maybe the difference is, we're just talking about volleyball and a lot of the times more than volleyball. So, cause I don't like to just talk about volleyball. So, it's for me, it's not hard to keep those relationships and not bring tension into it. But you know, it could get like that if people get sensitive about it or whatever. I mean, it totally could get that way, but.
I did some interviews for the major series when I was out sick, and I felt like when I interviewed the players, they fully like wrote me off as a volleyball player. I was like, oh, this sucks. Like I was fully just like the media guy at that point. I was like, wow, this isn't cool. I'll be back, bitches.
Then you won your first tournament back, China.
I just make up things in my head to have a chip on my shoulder.
Oh my gosh. I have a good question from Tim VB. He said, how would you guys rank the top 10 men's teams right now going into the Olympics in 2021? Is Norway still number one? And then he also said, how would you rank Taylor within the group of the top 5 defenders and why?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do like top 10.
Top 5 maybe?
Off the top of my head, yeah. I mean, I think you have to put Anders and Christian as number one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, which it sounds kind of weird, but if Anders and Christian are playing Krasilnikov and Stoyanovsky in a final, I'd bet on Russia to win that. Because I think that Anders and Christian lost like 5 matches in all of 2019, which is just a stupid number, given how many they played, and 3 of them were to the Russians. And I don't know. I just think like when you have like an Oleg who is like 7 feet tall and as athletic as he is, he's the one guy who can sort of neutralize Anders.
Yeah.
And Krasilnikov is so freaking smart. So I would still put Anders and Christian number 1, the Russians is number 2, and then I think there's a pretty significant drop off in tier to the kind of like 3 through like 15 level. I think after that is pretty much like pretty much anyone can go. Maybe Evandro Bruno, Allison Alvaro in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'll have to agree with that. Yeah, like, I mean, on paper, Allison Alvaro and Bruno Evandro, I think should be higher, should be up in that top tier, but with their consistency over the last year or two, you can't really put them there. Germans, like the Germans have shown up in these huge events to where it's like world champs. Oh, we're playing in Hamburg. The Germans have been in the final, World Tour final, world champs. But the consistency hasn't necessarily been there. Even like Andre and George, like clearly have the ability to be in any final, but the consistency is not there. So just on consistency alone, I give it to Norway and Russia. Norway, I mean, just on their wins alone, you have to give them the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brouwer Musin, same thing. Like they could be on the podium at any given time.
Yeah.
I can't even argue with I'd say like 3 through 10 is like a full mishmash.
Yeah. And then like Nikolai Lupo, like I watch him play and I'm like, I don't know how they ever lose a set. And then I watch another set and it's like, I don't know how they ever win a set.
How has their name not come up yet in this conversation?
Yeah.
They're such a good team.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to consistency, really.
Yeah. And then for the Taylor aspect of it, I think Taylor's like for sure top 5 defender on the planet. I'd put Christian, Krasilnikov. I think Clemens Vickler is on that list.
Yeah.
And I'd put Taylor in there alongside. I think Alvaro also probably belongs in that top tier.
Yeah, Alvaro, Bruno, Lupo. I don't know. It also comes down to the blocker too. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to like take credit away from Krasilnikov and Sorum, but like it's a different story when you're in sync with the blocker like that. You know what I mean? But siding out, they can do it consistently. So that kind of puts them over the top. I'd say Taylor's top 5, but I would say it's further towards the 4 or 5 side, 4, 5, 6 area, not the 1, 2, 3, maybe like 5th.
Yeah, I think like you got Christian, Krasilnikov, and Clemens Vickler. I think are the clear like 1, 2, 3.
Well, Taylor can get in trouble size-wise. You know, if he doesn't have the right set, he can get in trouble for sure, especially with the bigger block. And he knows how to play it off the big block extremely well. But if there's like that in-between size, I think that he can't see and play off the block really well, and he can't hit over, then he's, you know, in a full-on like guessing game. But yeah, 4, 5, 6 range.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a couple funny questions here. Which AVP players, in your opinion, have the strongest and weakest board short game?
The strongest. I gotta give anyone who wears slunks. I'm down with. Trevor's also. So Trevor actually and Taylor, when I played them in the finals at the 4-man tournament in Florida, and they unveiled like a special like whiskey with the crabs board shorts that Slunks made, and they were freaking dope. So anyone who wears slunks, which now the crabs do, I'm down with as the strongest. Weakest, I mean, I feel like Hayden is basically wearing like capris still. They're like going down to his shins.
No, I didn't.
You know.
Okay, listen. When we first came on tour, we had to get matching board shorts, and I hit up my contact at Hawaiian Island Creations, it's a surf brand, and they just said, yeah, whatever, we'll throw you board shorts whenever you want. And Hayden's still hitting them up for board shorts. And he's still wearing like the old versions from the years before. Yeah, he's wearing his compression pants, but his like he'll wear things for about a year too long. So it's got to be hiding. Slunks, I mean, I'm a fan of Chris Reams.
Yeah.
I haven't really put any slunks on yet, so I don't know. It is what it is. Those okay, to me, like growing up in Hawaii, you don't wear those. Like those aren't board shorts.
Okay.
You don't go like surfing in those. So they're more like fratty party shorts to me.
Yeah.
Like when I went to the mainland, I was like, oh, like these are fratty kind of.
And that's the vibe that he gives, that like Slunks gives off too.
Yeah, that's what they're going for. So it's not exactly my style. Although if Reams wants to sponsor, I'll jump on board. I got some long legs I could fit in there. But I don't know. I'm not all that into the fratty style. I'm more into the traditional board short.
Yeah.
All right.
My board shorts are way too tight, by the way, because I work. Trevor's sponsor from the last few years gave us board shorts, and I just had to wear them. And apparently, they're built for his legs, not mine. So I'm not trying to claim this one. Mine
Trevor's legs are about this thick.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. This is a good one too. Question from Meech: has Travis learned Pigeon yet?
Just a couple. I'll just like throw in a couple things, dude. I had an interview with I did a story on Micah Ma for the FIVB the other day.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's just like little things like Raj and just like bra and like all those things, but now like Pigeon still got a long way to go.
Okay.
Because I'm not trying to be. I feel like Hawaiians probably get people trying to speak Pigeon all the time that don't know how to do it, and I'm not trying to fall in that category.
Yeah. That's probably the best bet.
Yeah. So I'll do like a little here and there. Yeah. Like what time's practice? 8. All right, Raj. Like that's it. That's all I got.
Raj. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like Roger that, but we just say Raj.
Yeah, just 3 letters. That's all we need.
Basically, Pigeon is just very lazy, and you just like cut it down to the shortest version and like slur it.
Dude, I remember though when I went to Hawaii for the first time and me and Nick Costello got lunch. Like, hey, bro, you been grinding yet? And I was like, what just happened, Nick? Like, what'd you just ask me? Which is, have you ate yet? If anybody was wondering.
Grinding. Yeah. Hey, if you want lessons in Hawaiian Pigeon, you get your Kona brew, you take the cap, and you get to learn a word on the bottom of every bottle cap.
Did you already fold that up, or did we get a word today?
I folded it. It was no ack.
All right, what's no ack?
It means like don't lie. So
okay.
Like, yeah. No ack,
right.
bro.
All right, there we go. So we can have our like Sandcast Pigeon word of the day, and in 3 more years, all of our listeners can speak Pigeon.
Everyone's gonna know how to speak it. Oh my gosh, I love that. I didn't know that about the Konas until like a little bit ago. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
That's awesome. I have a question here from Colin Wilson. He says, who are you guys most excited to interview, and who's the white rhino that you've yet to get on the pod? I don't know if you can tell that, but
most excited to interview or that we have interviewed?
Who were you guys most excited to interview? I guess which one you've already done, yeah. In the future, I guess you can do both if you want.
I think most excited, I was pretty excited to interview Anders and Christian when they were in town, because that was like right at the beginning of their rise when they won like 3 majors back to back to back, and then they were in town over Tri's house. So to hang out with them was pretty cool. And the white rhino, Nick Lucena, podcast Dodger, hates interviews.
Yeah,
hates interviews. But I put Nick, Misty, and Carrie are the 3 that I would love to get on. Oh, actually, Kent Steff is my white rhino. That's the guy that I would love to pick his brain because he is so good. And I know that he's like pretty closed off for media and interviews and like talking about volley. Whereas like Carrie's obviously in the media a lot. Misty is like as nice as they come. And Nick, like we're both like in touch with Nick enough to know that I think we can probably sneak him in pretty soon. But Kent Kent's my white rhino. That's who I'm working on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we definitely been throwing out Misty's name a lot, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. I may be texting with her right now, trying to set something up. Don't get too excited.
Savvy perked up real quick.
Maybe next week we can get her. She's on mom mode, so it's all about getting around the babysitting and school and whatnot. I think Karch would be my white rhino. I feel like we've like thought about hitting him up a bunch, but just haven't gotten to it yet. I feel like that's like the one you got to send the text at the right time to get him on board. Dude, Stein Metzger, we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
That's on you.
All right. I'm sure he would love to do it.
I know. We just haven't gotten it. I've even talked to him about it, and we just haven't made it happen.
Yeah, he'd have Otto. He'd have Otto sitting here in the background, just kind of hanging out too.
Yeah. maybe do it down on the sailboat.
Yeah. No, he probably would be on the sailboat because that's where he does all of our Zoom calls too.
Oh,
So,
he's got it dialed.
That's awesome.
We do. You know who I really enjoyed was Mike Lambert.
Yes.
Growing up, I love Mike Lambert and Sean Scott, Stein, obviously, but he was more of a defender, and I was like learning blocking on the baby court. Yeah, Mike Lambert. My mom taught him PE. And he's just the nicest guy. He also like surfs, so I feel like I can relate to him a lot. And he was just like so awesome on the podcast. I felt like really good knowledge. So that's one of my favorites. And then Karch, I guess, would be the white rhino.
Dude, I loved when Lambo came on. He's like, what should we talk about, guys? Karch. Love playing with Karch. Let's talk about how great Karch is. And Lambo was just like talking about how great all of his partners were. Just like the greatest dude.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
We have another question here from the accountant that says, do you think the AVP will return to its normal schedule in 2021 to include fans as well? If not, do you think Donald's son will move some of the tournaments to places like Florida because they're fully opened up? So another thing about Florida.
I mean, I feel like with like California, I feel like they just put in a new measure that there's no indoor seating till like May or something.
Right.
So I feel like the odds of having a full capacity event in 2021 are probably pretty low. So I would think that the AVP would probably be searching elsewhere if they wanted to do like a full schedule again. And I think at the rate that Hawaii's going, Hawaii's probably also out the door for 21.
Yeah.
So I would think that if there were to be a full schedule, which I hope there would be, we'll probably see some new stops or maybe the revival of some old ones like a Clearwater in Florida, where we just played, maybe like in Atlanta. I don't know, just some spots like down south that are open. What was that?
Some unique venues maybe, like where the local, whatever, not promoter, but whoever's hosting the event will kind of go out of their way and pitch it to the AVP like, hey, we have all this stuff in line with that checks all your boxes. Will you come here? If I had to put money on it based on like the conversations I had with the AVP staff and ownership during the Long Beach event, I would guess that we're going to see like a hybrid system where they're going to try to get some fans in seats where they can, but definitely run a few more events like we had in Long Beach, because financially it makes a lot of sense. Sponsors are still getting a lot of exposure because there's so many eyes on Amazon. Yeah. And it's like, I want to say like, my vibe was like, it's like a third of the price or less than half the price to put an event on like that. So I think we'd see a hybrid system, because it sounded like they knew they had to prioritize getting fans to events, and they can't just run a whole season like that. But I think they're definitely like licking their chops, being like, oh, we can like take 4 or 5 of these events off and save all this money and still run good events, which I don't know. For the near future, I'm fine with that. Like, those events were really easy for us. We're not traveling. We're still playing great volleyball. We're actually playing better volleyball because we don't have that travel, crazy travel schedule and whatnot. But I would guess there's a hybrid system, and AVPs wants to be really cautious about the COVID stuff. So I don't see them going to, let's say, somewhere in Florida wants to just have a full-on rager techno party around the event. I don't see them going for something like that. It's going to be more conservative, like no players at our event or fans are getting COVID or bringing it in.
Yeah.
If they can do it in that fashion, then I think they'll go for it.
Very cool. I have another question from James Moyer. He said, did Travis play club ball at Maryland? If so, any good runs at nationals? If not, how are you getting your touches in during college?
So I have actually never touched a volleyball in the state of Maryland. I grew up, when I was in college, I played club basketball and I did club swim. And then the first time I touched a volleyball was when I moved to Florida. So I can't help James a whole lot with how to get touches at Maryland. However, you can go to Ocean City. There's a decent amount of courts there. It's like 3-hour drive, or just move to Florida or California. You'll find your touches. But it is pretty funny because like a lot of people ask like, oh, like you're from Maryland. Actually, a couple of people at the tournament in Florida were like, hey, have you played this tournament in Maryland? Have you like played here in Maryland? I was like, I've actually never played in Maryland outside of high school gym class. So if you have any cool places to play or tournaments, I would love to know about them.
Okay, we only have a couple questions left, I think. This one's from Cap. They said, what is the direction that USA Volleyball is headed with Tyler Hildebrand going back to Nebraska? Will he be back in 2021 once indoor season is over, running Team USA, practice to prep for teams for the Olympic push? Are there any candidates to take his director of coaching position once he officially transitions out?
So as of right now, or as of last I heard, they're not trying to fill that position at the moment because, I mean, they're furloughing people at USA Volleyball, not trying to hire right now. I think they want to fill the position. I know who my candidates would be, but I don't even think they're going there right now. But in terms of what Hildebrand's going to do, he's working with us in like a very limited fashion. So basically when he left, he's like, okay, I'm going to Nebraska, but I want to be involved in the Olympics since he worked through this whole quad with us. So like we can reach out to him anytime. And then if we I guess as the Olympics get closer, he's going to want to jump in and kind of like see where we're at. So he'll be helping out, but I mean, from what I understand, he's pretty much in Nebraska, but like wanting to help out as Olympics gets closer, which I don't know. Nobody knows what that means. But in terms of Tyler's impact on USA, I think he had a huge impact. I think he had a really difficult job in terms of defining what exactly his job was. Like nobody really knew what his job was. How do you coach all the teams that are competing against each other? But he did a really good job in terms of getting us together by the end of his tenure there, in terms of getting us all training on the same court and collaborating, getting on board with his practices and training and then video sessions. He's obviously brilliant, like easily one of the best minds in volleyball in the world. But so yeah, he brought a lot of value, but I don't know, the system's just kind of a shit show, and I don't know if anything's going to maintain in place that he's set up.
You mentioned you have like a couple candidates in mind that you would like to see. Who are some of the top guys that you think could fill that position? Because like in my head, all the best coaches are like in pretty comfortable positions as college coaches. Right. Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. Talking about like Stein, you know, he would be as good a candidate as any, I think.
For sure. Stein, Raji. Well, I know Jeff Alzina wanted the position when Hildebrand got it, and he was like, I think they were the two competing for it.
Yeah.
It just depends what you're looking for. Are you looking for volleyball X's and O's, or are you looking for someone who's going to kind of bring the national team together and like moving in the right direction in a cohesive way?
Yeah.
It's what I think the national team needs. I think a lot of the technical stuff, although it's like was so valuable coming from Hildebrand, and whoever gets hired is going to know their stuff. But like, I think Sean Scott could do it. Sean Scott decides that he doesn't want to be a part of the volleyball stuff at all, and he's just kind of going to be the I don't know. He just kind of is there for us. Anything we need, he's got it, but he's not giving us volleyball. I'm sitting here like, dude, you're one of the guys I watched growing up. Like, I want to learn your stuff. You get out here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he could do a really good balancing job on that, but I think that would mean he'd have to demote himself. So it depends what you want, but I think Jeff Alzina would do a good job at that in terms of balancing the two. Coaching with also working with all the teams and just making one cohesive unit, so it makes sense for us to like collaborate. I think
Jeff was our volunteer assistant when we won my sophomore year, and he was like the most legit coach ever and just the coolest guy. He would be awesome. I feel like he knows so much about volleyball, but also just he's so easy to talk to. He knows how to coach well. He knows how to communicate well. And, you know, just having a little daughter and, you know, he's just a well-rounded good guy. So I think he would be a great fit, but, you know, I'm biased. I think he's awesome. And he really came into our program and worked really well with Stein and Jenny and helped us win. Like he totally came in and helped. So I don't doubt that he would do amazing with that position.
Yeah.
You have learned from some brilliant volleyball minds, Sav. You've had Stein, Jeff, Jenny, Case Beer last year.
Real lucky, yeah. Irene had some legit players come in and be my volunteer assistant, and just, you know, having Stein and Jenny for 4 years, it's been awesome.
That's awesome.
Having, you know, Sealy for indoor and stuff. I've just had some really brilliant minds and amazing players coach me at UCLA, and even my club coaches. I've been so lucky with who I've had, so it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we have one more question from Steve Crandall. He said, he talked about how you guys have done such a great job interviewing players. And then he said, I'm curious if you see the growth and acceptance of the game changing. Are you more or less positive looking forward? And what about the existing and potential sponsors? How do you see the world now?
So there's like undeniable growth in the game. And I think that anybody who looks at the grassroots level, just like the sheer number and volume of participants is like booming, like by the thousands and thousands. Like if you look at any juniors tournament, like there are hundreds of teams signing up. So in a sense that like beach volleyball is like kind of like sports' greatest Ponzi scheme, where like all the money being raked in from the juniors is funding the professional level tour, or at least that's what, from the outside looking in, that's probably how the business model has to work, because you don't have to pay out juniors, you know, and they're bringing in so much money. So I think it's growing and the talent is rising. I mean, you look at the women's side, and like I wouldn't want any piece of playing in a women's qualifier. Like it looks insane.
No, it's
like,
so
Savvy,
nervous.
good luck. I'm rooting for you so hard.
I see, like Julia Scholes and Haley Harward, they're going and just crushing tournaments. I'm like, well, I have to play against them this year, and the competition is just ridiculous now.
Yeah,
it's
and
great though. I mean, it's so awesome to see.
And you look at like, I mean, you played Kristen Nuss and Claire Pola last year.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played Taryn Cloth?
No, I was talking to Abby about this, and we were like, okay, so she's been playing with Kristen Nuss a lot. Is that like the new partnership? And they've been like crushing it. So we're just like, okay, like, and it's tough for us because we can't, in our protocol right now, we can't get on a flight. So we're seeing all these opportunities in different states, and we're like, well,
that's such a bummer. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can drive, but all of the tournaments are across the country. So it's like, you know, but it's really cool that there are so many like upcoming events, especially during this whole pandemic. And I think it's great that people at my age and younger and older are getting out there and crushing it, because the level is just getting higher and higher, and the amount of girls playing is growing. And so it's really awesome to see. But as a up and coming player, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming to you know, in a year from now I'm going to be trying to dive head first into this after playing indoor and stuff like that. It's like, okay, if you want to do it and be good at it, you have to be fully committed to it. That's the biggest thing, is being fully bought in, and that's, you know, like Sarah Sponsel, like she fully just went after it and is crushing it. So it's kind of how it has to be.
Yeah. And I think like I would put you as probably the most improved player I saw last year. Because like UCLA, I mean, obviously you guys had that huge gap with the McNamara's leaving and
Yeah.
Sarah leaving. And then it was like, well, who's going to fill that kind of like big dog role? And like you were like unquestionably the leader of that team from what I saw.
Yeah.
And then, but like going around playing all these tournaments that I have this summer and seeing like Kristen and Taryn, like they controlled every point of the match against Stockman and Larson in the finals in Nashville. I was like, that's the number 8 ranked team in the world, and a college team just like dominated the whole way.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you like probably have a 50-50 record with Kristen or just like LSU and like the top team. So like, that's just the level that's coming up. So like in terms of growth of the game, like it's there for sure. Will the business model evolve with it? I don't know. Like, I don't know how the business model goes. I don't know. Like, I would love to see it if we got a little bit less reliant on sponsors and we could start bringing revenue from charging people to come in.
Yeah.
Like King of the Court, you know, they charge for all the skyboxes, which was awesome. So it would be cool to see if we started charging for the product that the players are putting on, rather than just relying on, you know, a Miller Lite or a Kona to sign a check and say, all right, we got your expenses. Like, go ahead and run your tour. Because then once the sponsor leaves, where are we?
Yeah. The question is, how do you get people to want to pay to consume our sport?
Right.
And it's almost like we don't know if they are willing to pay to consume our sport because we've never charged them.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. If you
bring it back
me.
to the beginning. We need more people talking shit.
Nobody's talking enough shit.
Dude, that's why, dude, and that's another thing. So many people in Florida were like, dude, I watched you play in the KOB with like that the McKibbins put out. Like, that was awesome. There was so much trash talk. They loved all the banter between, and I think like Riley and Madison are onto something, like putting that stuff out there, like all the little like quips like during the match, and Trevor just like
all these little questions just to prod people.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear Tri said this? What do you think?
Yeah.
Totally.
So the more interesting you can make the game, I think that's like, I think the players have to understand that they have a role to play in entertaining. And
well, we also like, if the business isn't gonna take off, which, you know, we have to balance being grateful for what we have and like be grateful that EVP, FIVB, USA Volleyball have what they have in place so we can do what we do, but also not just think, okay, what we have is what we have. Like, no, we got to take it into our own hands and build stuff, like doing stuff like this, the podcast, and Kevin's doing YouTube, Crab's doing Whiskey with the Crabs, like whatever it is, you know, we got to take it into our own hands and try to, quote unquote, that stupid phrase we don't like, grow the game.
Grow the game.
I hate that. It just sounds so corny. But I mean, yeah, we'll grow the industry as far as I'm concerned, you know?
Yeah, I think that's probably a better term for it, is grow the industry. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. We can't just sit back, which I've been doing for years, and just be like, oh man, we just need like Mark Cuban to come buy us or like throw down like $1 billion and just like have the perfect business model because he's a genius.
Right.
And everything will just be great. We'll just be getting paid millions like other professional athletes. You got to stop sitting back and wishing for that and do something about it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And creating value. And that's why, Sav, we love having you on, because you were creating value with the NCAA, interviewing and just kind of innovating and doing your own thing. And it's awesome to have you on.
Well, I'm happy to be here. This was so fun and so easy. I loved it. It's awesome.
Awesome. I told you, everything works out when you wing it.
Hey, on that.
But if that's the last of the questions, then Try, happy 3-year anniversary. Sav, happy first episode with the squad. Love having you on. I'm empty, but cheers.
Yeah, I'm empty too.
Cheers. And hey, my other pigeon word kind of is shoots.
Shoot.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Later.